special event alert.
Get on your feet and run! This is Late for Changeover, your weekly space news and variety show. I'm Marty Smith, your host, and with me as always is our man in the closet, Jake Wall.
What's going on, guys? Good to see you.
Very good.
Shameless plug. Merch
And
is in the
from
comments.
the Southwest United States, our Big Vern, Mike Johns.
How's it going, everybody?
Ah, look at that. And I don't have my mug today. I don't even have a mug with my name on it. So we're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all Guardians and to the other lesser branches as well. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as we present Late for Changeover. Gentlemen, it's good to see you as always.
Yeah.
And what I was saying, Mike, when Eric dropped out, right? And then Kevin dropped out. Well, we knew Kevin was going to be here tonight, right? I was saying it sounds like a Thursday night DNIF session. Because as a scheduler, that's when everybody came up to NIF.
I know what you mean now.
Yeah. That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, everybody's calling in sick, so they don't
It's
have
like,
to.
because they knew they couldn't see the flight doc until Monday. So, like, I'd work if I could, but they won't let me on the floor. And I was like, you cheat.
You got me good. You got me good.
So now it's internet. Internet is the new DNIF, or DNIP, if you will. So
where's Eric at again?
Oh, he's got spotty internet. He's
Island of Venice, right? Down in Cancun, just outside of Cancun.
Isla de Muerte,
I think so.
Isla de Whitey. I don't know.
Yeah, he's Isla de Chafing. Don't play it out.
Venice.
Some bullshit.
Isla de Generic.
He's knee deep in his third round at the buffet. Crying, salting his tears, or salting his meat with his tears. I shouldn't do it 3 rounds.
I've got to work out tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've got a tanning painting.
I gotta feed the skinny legs.
The reason I don't have my mug, I've got my M16 mug, right? I don't know if you can see that. You can't. Here, you see it?
Yeah,
but
I see
my
it.
brother sent me an attachment. Look at that! Look at that! Can you see that?
Bipod for it.
He sent me a bipod for it. Look at that! I thought he was sending it for my AR-15, but no, I put it on my mug. So if I set it,
Well, it's a Picatinny rail. You could put it on both.
You can, but my AR-15 has a hand grip on it. I suppose I can remove that, but it sits at a perfect angle to refill.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So thanks, Jerry. But this is the biggest, most cumbersome, awkward thing I've ever done.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous.
I keep hitting the mic.
Yeah,
like 4 beers in there.
Anyway, let's go into a couple things I found from SpaceX. All right. So the first one is pretty cool, and this was posted on X, and it's pretty neat. It's every SpaceX launch from the Cape, right? Since 2014. So, and I don't know who put this together. Obviously, it's all simulated, I think. But here we go. You see the date up in the top left, and how slow their launch schedule was.
Yeah, they're going months between launches.
Yeah.
They're going multiple per week.
Yeah.
Now we're into 2014.
2014, they're blasting off 2 per month.
It's crazy. And now we're up to 2016. I don't know what that was. That looked like a bad launch.
That was something blowing up on his head.
Shit happens when you're partying.
Oh. Holy crap, they brought in multiple sites too.
I know, look at that. Isn't that crazy? And you can see off in the background, like the rocket bodies starting to come back, the recovered rocket bodies starting to land. I thought that was
Good
pretty
night.
cool, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it was a cool video.
ridiculous.
So for those listening, that's every whoosh was a rocket taking off, obviously. Yeah.
Just the pace that he's doing it. And if you think back to when NASA was actually doing our launches, it was like 2 per year, kind of. That's what it felt like, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It was like a heavyweight fighter taking a fight.
Oh,
It was like once a year, maybe.
yeah, 6, 7 months in between fights.
Right, right.
Oh, geez.
So to even that out, now this one was on space.com. It's like a year old. But there it is. So to even it out, this video is all the landing failures that they have, right? So all the trials and tribulations they go to making it look real smooth now. They put the Monty Python music to it, so
It's a black screen now, Marty.
is it?
Or can you see it?
I can't see it.
Okay.
Oh,
Let me
I
stick
heard
this
I heard the
on.
music though. The music sounded fantastic.
All right, let me turn that off. It's the Monty Python music.
Keep-
I
I like. Yeah, it seems like he's making light of it with the Monty Python music, but to be fair, nobody ever considered being able to do this.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Right. Can you
They're
see that
like-
now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
they went years with just throwing trash, decades with just throwing trash into space.
Yeah, and
And
the
he's like,
Russians
okay,
were worse than us, you know?
yeah. And he's like, what if we bring these down? And they're like, nah, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, if
You
he was
can't do
in
that."
the bureaucracy of the government, they would debate that and then ultimately decide no. And he was
Yeah.
like, and he's got that freedom where he's just like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And
Here we go.
obviously it didn't happen smoothly, as this video
Well,
will show. So
no.
here we go again.
But
You can see that now?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
coming in good.
Remember, this is a space.com video, not a SpaceX video. Oh, boom. Look at all that debris.
jeez, man.
The guy's like, ugh.
That guy spent months and months and months.
But I like how they're putting all the little issues on there
Yeah.
that they
I
found out.
remember that one. Oh, that was so close.
It's obviously a significant amount of fuel still in there for it to
Yeah.
blow up when it falls over. Here it is, Vern. Rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Yeah, that was a smart marketing move.
Yeah.
I don't know who's putting the little comments on the video.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I know. Things skidding
You'd
back and
think it'd be
forth on the deck.
Strapped down.
Yeah. There goes tower, timber. Boom! Jeez.
I can't imagine the level of calculations that have to go on.
Amazing.
One, the moving barge, right? It's not
Right.
drastically moving, but
Right,
it's moving.
Well, it's also robotic.
Yeah. Two of the freaking.
I mean, yeah,
It's
you can only correct for so much of it, but it's still a phenomenal piece of engineering. I mean, the guys that came
Yeah.
up with that shit are
Oh my goodness.
brilliant.
You know
And,
what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like you're in a big meeting, right? And there's one engineer who wants to do it this way, and they're like, "We know you want to do it that way. Just relax, Marty. Just relax, all right? We're not going to do that this way." And he's like, "God damn it!" He's like, "You don't have to get pissed off." And that's the guy who leaves, and Elon
Yeah.
hires him, and he's like, "What ideas do you have?" And he goes, "This. We should do this."
Okay, let's
And
try
he's
it.
like, okay, yeah, let's try it. Hey, that worked like a charm. And he's like, see, I knew it. Because the government will chase those guys off because of
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
rules and stuff, right? And then the risk averse attitude that space has. Stratcom had it before, and now space has
Mhm.
it. I'm sure that they're not going to let those guys kind of freelance ideas out there unless they're in a real pinch. But generally, they will be risk averse. So because it's not that they're worried about the government's money or the public's money.
Oh, that's clear.
They're worried
They're
about
not
their
worried about any
careers,
of that.
right? They're worried
Yep.
about their careers. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, if I take a chance on this, no 4-star is going to back me, so I'm not going to take a chance on it. And Elon's like, fucking do it, man. I don't need people. I don't need yes man here. Go.
Well, I'm sure he's a very difficult person to work for directly, but yeah,
Yeah, and
Oh,
I'm
he's
sure he's
willing. He's
handed that
willing to
off.
take
Right.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
he's
Right.
willing to take those risks of
Right.
okay,
Which is
show me.
funny because the Air Force, as it started off the Army Air Corps, was all about taking crazy
Oh
risks.
yeah, dude.
I mean, and they were like, whatever you got to do. Doolittle talked him into flying a B-25 off a bomber. I mean, off a carrier.
Yeah,
All right. And it became a significant move. But if they didn't have faith in that guy, you know, if he came back and goes, hey, look, we re-looked it, and most of these aren't going to make it back,
yeah,
they'd be like, forget
Well,
it.
they were also producing those, I mean, in the hundreds a month, during World War II. I mean, planes were getting
True.
lost left and right and all that kind of, and we had this huge industrial capability that we could just spin those up. So, it's not like, we build 100 F-22s and any loss really hurts our strategic dominance of
Fair.
the air,
Yeah, that's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. But still, to go, okay, 2/3 of these bomber crews aren't gonna come back. You think they would have approved that goddamn thing,
Yeah.
even with the bombers? But the crews that made it back. What? Do you remember how many crews made it back? How many they got?
Not
I
off the top
don't.
of my head.
I
Oh
don't remember.
no
I mean,
way.
a bunch of them had to bail out over China. Oh, they all bailed out over China.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah.
That was the best case scenario. Best
Yeah.
case scenario,
Yeah.
we crash in Chinese controlled China.
Right. Right.
Well, they had like some
Or
airstrips picked
Japanese
out.
controlled China. Right.
No, they
You
didn't
don't want
want
to be
to
in
land in.
Japanese control
They
time.
don't be in Japanese control. You just bomb the shit out of them. So, best case scenario, you go just.
Oh,
past
I see. Yeah.
Japanese
Yeah. Yeah. I
control.
got you. Yeah.
And
Right.
then there's airfields that we're gonna make it to. Dude, they knew the calculations before they even took off. They're like, fuck, we have
And they had
some
to
of them were lucky they made it past mainland Japan.
Right, they had to launch early too, right? Wasn't there a storm
Yeah,
or
yeah.
they got
They got
discovered by
spotted.
radar? Yeah.
Yeah, they got spotted.
So, but that's the origins of our Air Force, which is very much about taking risk, and then we devolve it into Stratcom and now space, which is all about don't take any risks. You know, I'm sure they want you to take risks, but
That's what
anybody
they say.
who's career watching, they're like, I ain't taking no risk.
Yeah.
They'll fry
Yeah,
you
they
in a
they
heartbeat.
definitely said it over and over and over again, but they never meant it. And
Yeah, right, right. They're like, they say it in the press release, but then they come
yeah,
down
we
here.
want airmen to be able to deorbit a satellite if it'll do something with military advantage to it. It's like, dude, you guys
Yeah,
are
that sounds awesome. And then they talk to the officer all afterwards, and you're like, you gave it down to the airmen. Where were you in this
Mhm.
whole
Yeah.
process? Anyway, I thought those were a couple fun videos. If you guys run across any TikTok or anything like that, I will give you the ability to share your screen if you're so
Whoa.
industrial to find something during the week. So, yeah, look forward to that. Okay, let's get.
Nope.
Let's. Oh, we never really covered. Eric's down in Mexico and Teapot's out in Disney World.
Disney World. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully he helped with this next story. I don't know when he went out there. I don't know if he went out there on Sunday or if he went out there Monday. But our first story, I took this from the Denver Post. There's many stories. We covered it last week, but Miss Colorado makes history as the first active
Yeah.
service member to be crowned Miss America. So we talked about Lieutenant Marsh. Oh shit! I was all excited. I thought I had this down.
Yeah, last week we went over that, and we were all just impressed that she was getting
Oh
there,
yeah, yeah.
and all the achievements
I was amazed, and
she
she
had done
won it.
early
It was
on.
like it was like Eddie Murphy's like she fucking won, right? On Sunday night, Colorado's Madison Marsh was crowned Miss America 2024. Marsh is a 22-year-old officer in the U.S. Air Force and the first active duty service member to ever win the title. She's also the fourth Miss Colorado to become Miss America. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow, Colorado representing.
Apparently, yeah. In addition to her military background, Marsh is the founder of the Whitney Marsh Foundation. I think that's named after her mom, which honors her mother who died of pancreatic cancer in 2018 and raises money for oncology research. In the talent round, she presented a spoken word piece centered on receiving a pilot's license at 16. What were you doing at 16?
Throwing
I don't know
hay
if the
during the
statute of
summertime.
limitations has run out yet, but
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I mean that's awesome, but that's not cheap. You know, I'm
No.
sure we've all looked into like, hey, how much is a private pilot's license? They're like, oh, it's nothing for the ground school, but then when you get into flying, you got to pay for the fuel, and you're like, oh, I'm out.
not only you got to pay for the instructor pilot, you've got to rent the plane.
Yeah, it's pricey. Um, Lieutenant Marsh is from Fort Smith, Arkansas. She graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs last year with a degree in physics, focusing on astronomy, and was on the Dean's List 8 times at the Air Force Academy. 8 times. In September, Marsh started a 2-year master's degree program in public policy from the Harvard Kennedy School through the Air Force Institute of Technology Civilian Instruction Program, or in Civilian Institution Programs. While in
She ought to
Massachusetts,
plagiarize the entire thing and see what they come back with.
Nice. Yeah.
And then attack, have everyone attack, say everyone's attacking her because she's just a pretty white woman.
yeah, right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, going over to Harvard, sure.
Harvard.
While in Massachusetts, she will also work with the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and a professor from the Harvard Medical School to research early detection of pancreatic cancer. For winning Miss America, Lieutenant Marsh wins $50,000 in scholarship money.
Nice.
Good for
Good
one
for
semester.
her.
Good for half a semester at Harvard.
Uh,
It was interesting because there were several stories that I ran into trying to find just kind of that summary of her, and a lot of them were like female Top Gun pilot wins Miss America, and I was like, hold on, all right,
yeah, Jesus, come on.
you
media.
got a pilot slot as we talked about last week, but she turned it down to go into this master's program. Now she is a private pilot's license, but she's not a jet pilot. In fact, there's a picture of her where she's sitting in a cockpit with a flight suit.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you know it's for show because the name tag has Miss Colorado on it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Second Lieutenant Miss Colorado. Is that your call sign?
That'd be a
And
terrible sign.
good on her because I saw an interview with her and she goes, that picture was in the back seat. There was a female instructor pilot. I was
Oh,
just
nice.
along for the ride. And I was like, good on you, LT. Good on you to cop to that, So, yeah, it was badass. I thought it was a great story. I'm glad she won. How could anybody beat that story? Right? She's pretty, she's blonde, she's athletic. She got into the Air Force Academy. She graduated from the Air Force Academy on the Dean's List 8 times in physics.
And she's not excited about world peas and
Right.
or the Iraq, and then
Or
she's
the Iraq.
literally started her own
Right.
nonprofit.
And then if you go,
Yeah.
she's just getting by on her looks, they probably skated her. And then she goes, oh, yeah, my mother died of pancreatic cancer, which I started a foundation to research on. And you're like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Lieutenant. So, but what do you think? Well, I mean, what do you think, right? Have you ever? I was in the Army, and one of the guys I had in my platoon, he made the all Army softball team, which is weird because all he could do was hit homers. I mean, this guy had a little bit of a pot belly. You know, he wasn't sprinting down to first base.
Yep.
So, but you throw him any pitch, and he could hit it over the fence. And so they picked him for the all Army softball team. Now he was still on my books as a member of the platoon.
Oh yeah.
I never saw him. I never saw him. He was gone 6 months out of the year, and when he came back, he was training to go the next 6 months out of the year. So, and it was kind of like I liked the guy, but Jesus, I mean, these Army programs, which are good for public perception and all this kind of rivalry, I guess. I don't know I don't know what good the Army gets out of it. But I lost a guy, right? He was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
So,
from a superintendent perspective, I remember having these arguments, with squadron commanders and all that stuff, and that was always it. We're already hurting for manning. If I send a guy to go, be on the Air Force MMA team or gaming team or whatever, because
Yeah.
you'd have airmen walk into your
Yeah.
office and want to do all sorts of shit, and but the commander would be like, how many
Right.
kills in Call of Duty? If it's
What-
not at least 1,000 a match, I don't even want to hear about it.
what was the
And,
what was the damn crew competition where you lost somebody for like 3 months?
Guardian Challenge.
Guardian
Yeah.
Challenge. It was so. And you're like, oh, the guy's got he's doing Guardian Challenge stuff. It's like, what is he doing? Oh, they got a fundraiser or representative thing. I was like, fundraiser? Well, they got to pay for their flight out to go party and get drunk
Yeah,
or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit.
The best I thought of Guardian Challenge was oh man, what was the guy's name? Big tall black E6, I think. Who was like, he didn't make the Guardian Challenge, but he was like, oh, I'll help you, like, I'll be the coordinator. And we lost him too. And I can't remember what his damn name was. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I got to get jackets. I got to make, arrangements. And it's like, yeah, but these are the guys competing. It's like, oh, wow, they need
This is a two Swiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dion.
There were several tall, big black guys that could
Dion.
be fall.
Dion. What? It was his
Oh,
last name, Dion?
yeah, Dion. Shit.
Damn, I can't
You know what
remember.
you're
his
talking
name.
about? Yeah, glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dion.
He was like the manager of the Guardian Challenge team. It's like, that is the most brilliant move to pull.
Yeah, that dude was always skating. He ran when new airmen would come in, he ran the program that was like
right. Yeah.
whatever they called that back then. And it was a bullshit, additional or not additional duty. It was a bullshit detail. But
and
yeah,
he
he
knew
would go in
that,
there
and
just
we
so he
all
could fuck
knew that.
around.
I didn't begrudge him it because
Dion
he
Wilson.
did it. Dion Wilson. Yeah, that's right. So hats off to you, Dion, if you're listening, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, not talking shit, but we're always talking shit.
But that's the whole thing. Now, what is the Air Force? Obviously, they'll make some, and in fact, actually, the Air Force will benefit a lot from her because she talks about very glowingly about coming into the Air Force. And you don't think that's going to
Yeah.
help up?
That's a big
Yeah.
recruitment bonus.
Was she military brat? Did you find out, was her dad?
I didn't look into it. No, I didn't look into it.
Anything?
Her dad got her into, obviously got her into being a pilot. And then once she got that private pilot's license, she said, all I wanted to do was go serve. So, but I didn't look into the family history. But yeah, if that's all she does is tour, I mean, that's kind of Elvis, right? That's all Elvis did, right? He was over in Germany, but he was singing songs and stuff, right? So,
Are you comparing Miss Colorado to the Elvis Presley?
I'm talking about.
I mean, she is the queen, but
yeah,
he was the king.
not in the Army.
That's
He was
true.
only in E5.
Oh, he was still the king. I don't know. Maybe he was just a prince back then. I don't know. That was early Elvis.
That was- So anyway, good honor.
Hey, but before you do need to clip that part, and like that needs to be part of the intro. But she is the queen, but he is the king.
That's true.
That was
That's a
good.
good one. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next up, we've never done this actually. So let's, but I ran across it. I thought it was interesting. Let's go to foreign space news. All right. From space.com, China's record-breaking Gravity 1 rocket. Now, ACE's amazing debut launch from ship at sea. Now, who writes an article that says ACE?
Man, that was glowingly.
But ACE's, isn't that like that's like back in the 50s, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he aced it. Anyway, the Gravity 1 vehicle built by Chinese company Orion Space. Now, we're not supposed to say Orientals, right? Isn't that kind of a banned word?
Easy.
But they
Wow.
called their whole company Orion Space. Anyway.
It could be Orion.
No, it's Orien.
I'm just saying. People spell Ryan different ways.
Not the Chinese.
How much Mandarin do you speak, Marty?
They have a very standard way of spelling it. Everybody knows that.
Oh, we pronounced that Orion. Well, you misspelled it, son of a bitch. Anyway, it lifted off for the first time ever on last Thursday, January 11th. The squat rocket rose off the deck of a ship stationed in the Yellow Sea, sending two big plumes of exhaust and some impressively large pieces of debris into a blue sky. Gravity 1 deployed its payloads, 3 Yunyao 1 commercial weather satellites, sure they were, into their planned orbit, according to Orion Space, which declared the debut launch a success. So here's a short video of Orion Space. I can't get past
I like how you're like, I'm sure they were. And yet we're like, hey, Starlink and us have hooked up to give kinds of shit. You're okay with that, but
can you guys see
how
that?
dare they have weather satellites?
Yeah, it's showing.
China's new Gravity 1 rocket. This is cool though. Look at that. It's launching off of like a freighter deck, or one of the ships that they use to catch Elon's first stage.
Yeah, but let's see him land that bitch back on the fucking boat.
Holy shit. Yeah.
But I mean, you talk about launching it from one of the slicks here in America, and we're like, oh, we got weather. We can't do that, right? Well, how
Well, there's no weather here. It's a beautiful day.
Well, that launch is. But I mean, what's the wave level before you abandon the launch?
Is that an unmanned vessel?
Currently, yes.
Or you think
that one is? Yeah, that one is.
So, no, the ship even.
Oh, I don't know.
Are there people that close to that liftoff?
That's a good point.
At the very best, you're getting a touch of the diarrhea. At the very best.
Yeah, that's right.
You're
Because
that close to that.
all Elon's recovery ships are robotic, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one was robotic. All right, so here's some facts. Gravity 1 can haul about 14,000 pounds of payload to LEO. Today's liftoff made it the most powerful Chinese commercial rocket, as well as the most powerful solid-fueled launcher ever to ace an orbital mission.
Are they using ACE because it's the first time they've ever launched that?
I don't know. It just seems
and
like
it was
they
like
aced it. They aced
They're
that.
using ACE because the guy's a dork.
That rocket was really booking.
Maybe it's because they're Asian.
Oh,
maybe
the spell.
I thought they were Oriental. I mean, what are we going here?
Maybe
Ori space
spell check corrected it to ace when they should have said ever to Asian an orbital mission.
No, they're not Besians. That's why they don't get Bs. They're Asians. Marty, that's an old joke. Come on.
That is the oldest joke.
And yet you're dying.
Still a good one.
It's a good one. You got me.
I was telling my wife was listening to some music the other day, She listened to this one station on Pandora, and there's some songs that never came on. And then there was a song. It wasn't her biggest hit. It was like the secondary hit, but it was "Tears for Queers" or "Tears for Fears," right? And I said "Tears for Queers," and she goes, "That's the dumbest joke." I was like, "That's what we said at 16." I was like, I tell dad jokes that are just inappropriate dad jokes, but they're still funny. And she goes, "Shut up." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Then there was a Manic Monday that came on by the Bangles, and I was like, "Oh, the
Yeah.
Bang Holes." She goes, "No."
Oh, you got it good.
That's when she really got mad at me.
Yeah, you got the anniversary moves on that night for that, didn't you? Oh,
Yeah,
he said the bang holes.
the Bang
Ooh.
Holes, Manic Monday.
He's so funny.
Well, yeah, it does mean.
He's
I
all
mean,
over
yeah,
there
it's.
getting dehydrated and stuff. Get out of here.
Hey,
Ah.
that humor worked at 16, not at
Yeah.
57. The company's also developing a vehicle called Gravity 2, which will feature a liquid-fueled core and solid rocket boosters, which is targeted for 2025. So today's then there's Gravity 3, which will combine 3 Gravity 2 stages, just
Okay.
like SpaceX's Falcon Heavy. So Gravity 3's payload capacity to LEO is projected to be about 30 tons. For comparison, the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy can haul about 25 tons. For the Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy can take 70 tons to LEO. So they're still not there yet, but they're getting there. They're working on it.
The weight capacity, like we literally just put up 70 tons of random shit up there. Just falling
Ashes, people's
in a
ashes.
in a controlled fall around the world.
Right. Forever. Because they're not making the moon. Thursday's Galaxy 1 launch was the 4th orbital mission of the year for China. The nation has ramped up its launch cadence to impressive levels recently, with the private sector playing an increasingly important role. China launched 64 orbital missions in 2022, then broke that national record with 67 in 2023. So they're active. They're putting a lot of shisa up there, right?
Yeah, there's so much stuff up there.
I know. What was the squadron that the old squadron? I don't know what the Delta is now. The old squadron that did all the space tracking. Remember
Eglin?
who that was? I
Well,
don't
there's a
remember.
couple of squadrons. You're talking about the one in the mountain, Force Space? No,
Yeah,
Force
Force
Space.
Space. That's the one that came to
Force
mind.
Space.
Force Space, right? You think those guys are like they're I mean they're got to be going out of their mind when
They
China
gotta be
blew
so
up. When they
overwhelmed.
blew up the one satellite, right?
Oh.
And they're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, that's 1,000 more tracks or whatever, 10,000 more tracks. And now they're just like, oh, China's launching. And now are they doing it like? I wonder if they're doing like the old Russians, right? Because the Russians just let their rocket bodies up there, still orbiting around. I wonder if the Chinese are like, yeah, fuck it, we'll do that. We'll do that same thing. We got.
Well,
this
these are
technology.
LEO. These were launched to LEO, so those rocket bodies should
Good point.
eventually.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And,
They should burn in. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Way to undercut my joke. Thanks, Vern.
Hey, next time we meet in person, I'll bring my work software and I'll show you. It's shocking because
Really?
that's what we do is help track that stuff.
If I gave you
Situational
the
awareness.
ability to share, could you share?
No, it'd be on my work laptop.
Oh, okay. All right.
You could just hold it up.
Yeah, I could.
I'm sure the propriety guys would really like that.
It's government owned. We're good.
No,
Yeah.
could bring more viewers in for
There
one
you go.
episode. They're like,
Yeah.
wow,
All right.
holy shit, we got 10,000 views and we're going to jail.
Yeah. Oh,
But that's a blaze of glory to go out on, man.
yeah, that'd be good.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk about another audit. Maybe the Pentagon is doing better. Maybe.
Did we pass this one? Did we get 50% correct?
No, they didn't.
No.
Actually.
No.
From stripes.com, a DoD audit finds that more than $1 billion in U.S. military aid to Ukraine is not properly tracked by the Pentagon. It's only $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, they were given 45.
Yeah, that's right. More than $1 billion in military weapons and equipment that the United States has provided to Ukraine to fight invading Russian forces cannot be accounted for and is not being fully tracked, according to a Pentagon audit released Thursday. Since the Russian invasion in February 2022, Ukraine has been given roughly $45 billion in U.S. military aid. The Defense Department Inspector General concluded in the report that about $1 billion in weapons that are required to be tracked have not been tracked.
45 billion. I mean, you could almost give $1 billion to each state in the union.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point.
You could build a $45 billion border wall.
I mean, you could
You'd have
fix
way
the whole
leftovers, right?
immigration system.
Sure.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
all the freaking. Think
Wow.
about how much New Jersey Mafia money you could spend on getting one turnpike expanded on that. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
or
I
the
mean, you could
Boston
do it
Tunnel or the what, you know.
a lot, and we're
At least it's going to
whistling away.
people in the States.
How
Like,
about
come
how much
on.
would
I
that
mean, that's
save? Would that help Social Security out? Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Nah, it's ridiculous.
The 92-page report states, quote, high rates of delinquency may correlate with an inability to maintain complete accountability of the defense articles, which in turn may increase the risk of theft or diversion. Achieving a complete picture of the defense articles in Ukraine will be difficult as the inventory continues to change, and accuracy and completeness will likely only become more difficult over time as the total number of defense articles in Ukraine continues to change. So the report, which is partly redacted, does not say exactly how many weapons have not been tracked. However, the New York Times cited the unredacted report, wrote the total is about 40,000. The untracked weapons are subject to what the Pentagon calls enhanced end use monitoring, or EEUM. Equipment that falls under the EEUM category requires heightened accountability and security due to its sensitive technology and smaller size, which makes it more appealing to arms traffickers. The report issued Thursday said the United States had given Ukraine about $1.7 billion in EEUM designated weapons by mid-2023, according to the audit. Although U.S. and Ukrainian personnel conducted some required inventories, as of June 2nd, 2023, serial number inventories for almost 60% of EEUM designated defense articles remained delinquent. Now, here's the beauty of this, and the reason I say it's a beauty is that imagine the arrogance, like if you had an EPR or something like that, and they're like, "Hey, Jake, you failed on every eval you took," and if you had the arrogance to go, I do a lot. It would be awful hard for me to pass every eval. All right, I'll see you later. And just left, right?
You're like, all right.
This is how the Pentagon responded.
I'm surprised that spreadsheet didn't work.
I remember when we covered that several months
I mean,
ago?
they shared it with Congress and
But
everything.
that wasn't for these weapons, these EEUM weapons. That was just for general, tires and shit like that. This is about weapons. So in response, the Pentagon concurred with some of the recommendations. They're like, okay, 12 through 17, yeah, we agree with that. Right? But 20 through 99, we don't agree with any of that shit. But they emphasize that keeping track of tens of thousands of weapons can be difficult because of the dangerous conditions in Ukraine, and there's limited personnel available to make the weapons checks. It's not our fault.
So you know what? I'm willing to buy that fact, right? It's an active war zone.
Yeah,
You've got guys probably running to the truck, grabbing ATGMs, throwing them in the back of a pickup, and just taking the fuck off and running.
Right.
But you should at least be able to track it to that point, and then boom, it's gone.
Well,
And then,
it's like
Yeah.
well, the
every
thing that
hand
gets me about
receipt.
this whole thing, hold on. The thing that gets me
Okay.
about this whole thing is Ukraine was what, like #2 in the world for the most corrupt governments.
Yeah, that's why NATO
that's
was
out there,
right? Yeah.
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 And so I mean, to think that all those trucks actually made it to that point, or that they didn't actually lose track of the truck 3 or 4 points prior to, and then just, you know, pencil whipped it afterwards, it's a bunch of bullshit. And those fuckers are shady as all get out.
It just sounds like
what
the last
exactly-
accountability we had was on the docks. And they're like, yep,
If that,
everything's loaded.
Yep.
We drove it to the border and we're like, all right, good. You got it. Remember? You
It's like
said that.
every hand receipt should just say Zelensky down at the bottom. And
Well,
like,
they had
okay.
they
They
had a
probably did.
truck show up at the depot, and they're like, "We signed for this truck," and the whole back of the truck or the APC was full of machine guns.
Right.
And they're like, "Did you
"Oh,
sign for those?" And they're like,
we didn't even know that
"We
was
didn't
in there."
even, we didn't even know they were there." How bad?
I just wonder how many of these weapons are going to end up in the hands of cartel members down in
Oh,
Mexico.
All of them.
Like,
Um,
no, I'm gonna go all over the place.
So
What exactly is it? EEUM? Did it give you specifics of?
yeah, EUM is the enhanced end use. So there are weapons that the Pentagon calls enhanced end use monitoring, and they have this certain set of requirements. So they're basically specific weapons. Equipment that falls under the EEUM category requires heightened accountability and security due to its sensitive technology and smaller size, which makes it more appealing to arms traffickers. It doesn't give any examples, but basically they're, you know, SAMs. They're machine guns.
It's gonna be. It's probably gonna be in-laws and
Yeah, but, I
jabs
mean,
and shit like that.
we're not talking about like 9mm Berettas
No,
or
not at
freaking
all.
AR-15s. We're talking about
High-tech shit.
legit,
Right.
high-tech stuff.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad. Alexandra Baker. Now here's the balls, right? Alexandra Baker, acting Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, wrote in a response letter to the audit, quote, while battlefield losses of EEUM articles can and do occur during an active conflict, we had no problem if they're lost on the battlefield, right? I mean, at that point, it's like... It's
Yeah,
just,
that's what we said, right?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah.
Mhm.
to date, there is no evidence of unauthorized or illicit transfer of U.S. origin articles outside of Ukraine. There's no evidence yet.
Yeah.
Again, like, what was it? Like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we were like, I'm beginning to think we're the biggest arms dealer in the world.
Oh, we are.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And we're like, we just keep confirming that and confirming that and confirming that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean, even if it was legitimate arms dealing, like selling shit tons of F-16s or F-15s to other countries, I guess that's legitimate arms dealing. But now we're going into illegal arms dealing.
What was
Like-
the Nicolas Cage movie that he
God
was
of
an
War.
arms dealer?
Lord of War, I think.
Lord
Lord of War got him.
I
Yeah.
heard a Pentagon guy say that was partially based on like reality.
a CIA guy, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like,
Well,
holy
and guess where he was from? The Ukraine.
was he really?
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh my God.
You don't remember Jared Leto drawing out a picture of Ukraine, and he couldn't get Odessa just right, but he was doing it in cocaine. There's a scene in the movie where he's doing that.
Oh, it's been a while
Nice.
since I've seen it. You're
Yeah, I
right.
haven't.
Yeah, you're right.
I haven't done that.
It's a good
I
movie.
didn't realize that was Ukraine. Given, she said, she goes on to say, given the closure of the, and here's the ballsy statement. Given the closure of the U.S. Embassy in Kiev from February to June 2022 and hostile conditions likely to persist in Ukraine for the long time, full accounting, quote unquote, of EEUM articles in the manner described is an unrealistic and unobtainable expectation. Period. See you later.
Look,
She's like,
she's
yeah,
like,
we know we're not going to account for them.
I mean, how long have we been giving them stuff?
Couple years
2
now,
years.
right? Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, right? Like, it's at least that, right? 2 years.
Yeah.
And she's like, Well, you closed the embassy in Kiev for 4 months.
Yeah.
How could I possibly be able to?
And I got no people over there anyway. So it's not going to happen.
I, um,
Okay. Thank you very much.
I mean, you just hand the program over to the Ukrainians and you say, track this shit.
Oh my
Uh,
God. But you know, and we're saying, oh my God, because here's some evidence that this shit is happening, right? How long have we been doing this? I mean, even under Reagan, we had Contras, right? The Iran Contra affair. God knows, we still don't really know how big that was. It was probably huge, and probably every president has said, well, what was the Obama deal?
the
oh, the
Iranian,
gun.
Fast and
No,
Furious, right?
the
that's
guns
furious.
to
Yeah.
Mexico.
Wasn't that Fast
Shit
and
tons of
Furious,
guns.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
A
an
lot of
ATF.
guns.
They're trying to track guns to the
Right.
cartel and see
Right. So
how
they
they're
gave them
getting there and all that
guns.
shit.
They're
Yeah.
like, ha ha ha, we got the serial numbers.
Actually, I thought that started under Bush.
It could
just
have. It could have.
and then
It just
continued
came
through
out
Obama.
under Obama. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
have. It could have, yeah.
Well, that whole movie American Made is all about.
Oh yeah.
We
Yeah,
talked
him.
about that. Tom Cruise
Right.
running drugs. CIA hired him, and
Yeah.
he was running drugs
Drugs
to
to
sell
Colombians.
from Colombia and back here in the States.
That the Vietnam vet Joe Guagno that I interviewed,
Yeah.
he had that one part where he said we were chasing a patrol and they crossed Cambodian line and they started getting return fire. And I said, "What? Who, oh, they stopped and turned." And he goes, "No, they were jeans and t-shirts shooting back at us
Wow.
because they had stumbled into an Air America's drop site."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Holy shit, Air America! It's as dirty as you can get, right?"
All sorts of shady shit going on.
But here's what's funny is like we're still shocked by it. We're still upset by it. Right? We
Yeah,
just
yeah,
quoted
right.
some shit that
Many,
the
yeah.
US did to start or instigate or fuel or profiteer off of all the wars that were in or conflicts that were in
It's
our lifetime.
you know as more and more independent people are coming forward and they're like, "Oh yeah, we did this, we did that, we did this," and you're like, "Holy shit!" It really starts gnawing at your faith in the government and the military and the institution. You're like, "Yeah, this is bad."
Yeah, man.
It's
It's
and it's the more that comes out, and here you go, right here. I mean, this isn't directly saying anything, but it does outline the government's response and their position. Is just like, look, we know we're not going to be able to track this stuff. Just keep giving it to them. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, go look at that shiny thing over there.
And uh, with Congress in as much turmoil as it is, and both sides profiting from it, who's really going to go? We got to dig into this, Except for like Rand Paul. Rand Paul would dig into anything.
yeah, he'll go after anybody.
But nobody will listen to him. So it's
No.
anyway. Let's get okay. Before we get to this next article, and then we're getting close, right? And then we'll get to Vern's article here in a second. But before we get to this next article, I want to give you guys some perspective, just stuff that I thought of off the top of my head, right? So I looked it up on the people who served overseas in World War II. And it was like 16 months on average of the close to a couple million people that we had. So they did 16 months overseas. Vietnam vets were, Army, most services were 12 months, Marines were 13 months, and then you came back. Iraq, Afghanistan, sometimes there were short tours, but a lot of those guys went back for multiple tours.
Yeah.
Right? I think during all that combat, and this is off the top of my head, okay, so don't go, "Oh, you're full of shit," because I know I'm full of shit. Just like the Pentagon lady says, "Yeah, I know I am. So what you gonna do about it?" But I think during all that combat time served, nobody was really promoted because they're like, "Oh, you did 3 tours over in Iraq? Shit, let's promote you." Right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, when everyone has multiple tours.
Right. How are you going to rise above, right?
Yeah.
But still, they're still like, "Okay, thanks, E5. I know you went over there 3 times, but you still got, 6 more months before you're eligible for E6. And so for the most part, it was time and grade, and still still had to hit those mandatory bulls. I knew guys who got screwed because they were supposed to go to school and they got deployed
Yeah, yeah.
and they didn't get to go to school and they came back and they're like, "Oh yeah, you still got to go to that school." And you're like, "Son
You
of
didn't
a
get
bitch."
promoted.
Well, that's why you got to flex really hard on those breakfast burrito fundraisers.
Yeah.
The breakfast burritos. Well, the Army just created a way to get promoted with no combat time. 0. So from military.com, and we talked about this months ago, but the first wave of Army non-commissioned officers gets automatic promotions for completing recruiting school. Aha. Dozens of non-commissioned officers receive fast-track promotions for graduating the Army's recruiting school in recent weeks, part of a controversial move by the service as it desperately grapples with a depleting pool of NCOs interested in serving in the role. Yeah, when you force your non-vol guys over into that role, nobody wants to do it. Of the 145 soldiers who attended the Army recruiter course, the latest Army recruiter course, 56 NCOs were automatically promoted from sergeant to staff sergeant, according to the service. The graduation and promotions occurred December 21st, but the Army widely announced it on social media only last week, Thursday. In November, the service shifted its policy and started allowing automatic promotions for sergeants who become recruiters. The only stipulation is that the NCO be in good standing, but time and grade and attendance of the advanced leadership course is not accounted for. Here you go. E5, you're now an E6. The move means a freshly promoted sergeant could potentially skip that rank by attending the 8-week recruiter course. 8 weeks, 2 months of course, and you're an E6. It's effectively the only instance in recent history in which a soldier could receive an automatic promotion exclusively for attending a school. Furthermore, if you go to the school as an E6, right, and you recruit 24 applicants during the first year, E7. Senior NCO. Just get 24 people to sign up. You jump all of that stuff. No senior NCO academy, no.
I wonder if
none
you
of
have to make it up. Like as soon as you're out of
No,
that
they're
position,
saying
you
no.
have
Schools don't. It doesn't matter. We're pinning it on you, and off you go. So, do you guys remember? I was reserved, right? I was reserved when I knew you guys the whole time. But when was the great staff sergeant giveaway in the Air Force?
03, I think.
It was early, right? It was.
There's been a couple, but yeah, it was like 03.
That was the big famous one, I think, right? When they give that out.
I think there was a big one in 01 also too.
It was
was
somewhere
it, right?
early in my career. I remember that. I
Yeah.
don't think it was quite
Yeah.
01. I think it was
Because
it
they
was
were
somewhere in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I remember Willie and I got trash talked because they were like, "Well, you were in the staff sergeant giveaway."
I was
And
just going to
I was like,
ask that. Did you get shit?
because
for it?
yeah, but I
When
don't
they
know.
lowered the scores, it's not your fault, right?
Yeah, and we had because I got promoted to staff sergeant, or I got the line number when I was a weapons guy. So I tested as a
Okay.
weapons guy, and I think we had 9 or 10 people eligible to get or to even test,
Yeah.
if not more. I don't know. And only 3 of us made it.
Oh, okay.
And the 2 that made it were like senior airmen for like a couple years.
For a while. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I snuck in like right at the last minute. I was like, "Oh, I'm eligible. I'm a month into the eligibility. All right, first time testing,
And that's when they dropped that score, and you were like in.
I'll take it, man."
Yeah. Right. You're not gonna give it back, right?
But it's still though, it wasn't that many people in my shop didn't get promoted.
Okay.
So it was crazy.
But I was going to
but
ask
they
you
gave us a
guys.
hard time about it. Now
That's what I was going
it,
to ask about.
but
Yeah.
the next couple of years after that, Vern's right though, because the years after that had a higher promotion and then a higher promotion, I think,
Oh,
because
really?
they didn't get everybody they needed in the first year.
Well, you
Well,
got to
So
sure.
they
think
did
what
it
drove it. It
again and did.
was what drove it was 9/11, and then the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The services
Yep.
realized they didn't have enough people at those ranks, so it drew it. The
But
Yep.
need for the
right before
NCOs.
9/11, they had that big rift, so they got rid of a lot of people. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
we were in the trough and coming out of that thing. So they were like, "Yeah, we need people." But I wanted to ask you two guys if you got shit, and yeah, you just said that they did. I mean, I was reserve, and those promotions pissed everybody off all the time.
Well, yeah,
Oh, you're
reserve
reserve.
is
Yeah, you got promoted.
as
Right?
soon as you met time and grade time of service, you automatically got promoted if
If you
you're
had
in that
if you had a spot,
position,
right?
right?
Yeah, if you had a spot.
yeah. You
Yeah.
had to have a
And
spot in the unit, then you had to complete your PME, which you could do in
yep,
Sure.
4 spots, where the active duty
yep,
guys had to go in person.
And,
yep.
and none of those were all that bad, right? I mean, we dealt with
No.
it. You just go along with it. What do you think that's going to do? You get a guy who makes E7,
Yeah.
and then he's going to come out of recruiting command and go back to his unit, and now he's going to be a platoon sergeant vying for a first sergeant position. And they're like, how long do you spend as E6? And he's like, I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, in
Yeah.
those schools,
And
while
it's
a
gonna
lot of
stunt
people
their
go through them, they're
growth.
bullshit, but they do teach you certain skills that you do need to move forward. I mean, there's a purpose for
Sure.
those benchmarks.
Yeah.
You go through and you do go, oh shit, I didn't know that.
But
And
the human nature of the active duty guy sitting
Oh,
there,
there's gonna be some
sitting
trash
right
talk.
next to you, and he's an E6, and he's sitting next to an E7 who should be an E6, but because he was able to recruit 24 guys, and he's like, motherfucker.
Nah. Well,
they're
okay.
gonna have to make a little asterisk patch to put next to your rank.
No way. I think you know what? If
They're
that
gonna
guy
be
wanted
pissed,
it so
man.
bad, if he wanted it so bad, he
He
could
could
have
have
been a
gone and
fucking
done it.
recruiter.
Good point. Yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
You were like, oh, the mission comes first. Yeah, the mission needs bodies to do that, and recruiting is part of that, you
Yeah.
know.
Hey Jake, just because you got staff and the great staff sergeant giveaway doesn't
I
mean
know
you
exactly.
should stick up for all the
I
other people
want
getting bullshit promotions.
hand
And then
me
all your other
outs.
promotions were reserve ones. So,
No,
I know I'm just bullshit.
I made tech active. I made master active. I gave it up for a tech sergeant AGR spot.
Holy shit, I didn't
So
know that. You dropped down. Fuck.
yeah, I gave
Sweet,
because
sweet
I was like,
APR spots, man.
oh, that's exactly it. And I was like,
Yeah,
you
you
know
gotta have
what?
the spot available.
The
Yeah.
speed at an expanding reserve unit, like the rate of promotion
Oh,
in
it's
that,
smart. Yeah, it's smart.
I was already going to be all others
Right. Right.
as like meaning it would be a full year and a half almost before I got, or a full year before I got promoted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll
It's
probably get master in the reserves in that same amount of time.
sure. Sure. But it's that whole thing when you get especially Vern, you were space your whole time, right? So you
Yep.
see guys cross train, right? Don't know shit about shit, and they're cross training at E6, and you've been in the whole time with all that knowledge, and they're like, "Yeah, I was a cop before. I thought I'd come over here and get E6 or maybe E7 early," and you're like, "You don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. You don't think that
Marty,
chaps you a little bit, right?"
that's exactly what's
To a
going on
certain
right
degree,
now. Though.
As a space guy who had to deal with a bunch of dudes, when it came to the mission, they did know to kind of pull back. Like the ego wasn't always there when it came to the
Okay.
mission. If you had a really sharp senior airman on crew and you were the brand new tech to that crew, you
Yeah.
capitulated and you let him go for it, and you learned, and then you showed him how you were learning and all that. You did do the NCO thing. And it was very rare that you had a cross tread that was a complete asshole about that. Now, I could have been a complete asshole about everything else that NCOs are assholes about, but sometimes even worse than your normal space dude. But there's plenty of space guys that let that shit go to their head too. And
Sure.
I would say that the cross treads that came in, they did recognize the disparity there between operational knowledge and being an NCO, and it's just not the same. Your rank doesn't necessarily dictate your position on crew.
Yeah. Or your experience level. But
Yeah.
Marty, they're running into that right now, right? Because think about
Yeah.
all those Army and Navy and Marine Corps people that came over
Oh
and joined
yeah,
Space Force.
that they were
And those
forced over,
pushed
right?
over, and I mean, I'm not trash talking the Army. I'm just saying,
No, that's a good
if
point.
if
Yeah,
I'm a senior leader in the Army and they say you have to give up this percentage of people,
right.
I'm not going to send you all my A team, right?
Well, sure. Yeah, sure.
I'm going to give you some C's and D's in there,
I don't know
like
how that worked, right? So we gobbled
that's
up
how it
all.
worked.
We took all of Army space. Did they give
It-
those guys an option to go? You can
we
either
didn't take all the
transfer to
Manning.
Space Force, or you can reclass in the Army.
We only took a certain amount of Manning, and the Army still had a very, very limited number of pure space people.
Yeah.
It didn't have a space MOS still.
I would
So it
imagine it was
was
an officer thing to where the FA-40s crossed
those
over.
guys,
Yeah.
are
Right.
awesome.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But the enlisted guys, I'm not trash talking my wonderful enlisted. I'm just saying they didn't have a ton of permanent MOS dedicated space people. They
Well,
were all like 4 years or 6 years over here, and they got
let's talk.
non-balled into space.
Let's talk as we were sitting there in Sivers, right? And
Yeah.
we get and we're sitting on the mission side, and you get an event, and the officer has to authorize you to release that event, right? But you go
Yeah.
to JTAGs with 3 guys in there, and an E6 will be like, release it,
Yeah.
right?
Go.
And that guy comes
Well,
over to space, and he's like, "What
And
the?"
and those guys aren't space guys. They
No.
were
well, and the thing
they were
there, hold
transfer
on,
guys.
there's a
Yeah.
takeaway there. The difference is the strategic the
Yeah,
strategic
yeah.
that's attached to it, and the fact that that could have nuclear implications to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. They were releasing on theater. Great. You're right. You're right. They were releasing on theater. But still, the mindset, because the Army tends to power down to the NCOs, the Air Force tends to take that away from the
Yeah,
NCOs
they're going
for
up.
the most
Yeah.
part, right? So that mindset of them coming over, doing the same mission, they're reading dots too. And they're like, what? This lieutenant has to It's got to be
Well,
crazy.
and to
Gotta
there
be
again, put
crazy.
that into perspective. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times on your actual crew dog crews, to see anything higher than a lieutenant or a captain out there working shift work was relatively rare.
Well, yeah, but now with the new config they got, right?
It's usually a major as the overarching crew commander, but still in the
You're still
mission
captain and lieutenant,
cell,
right?
it's still a captain or a lieutenant. I mean, so it's pushed down fairly low, and those guys are highly trained. And then I mean, and then you've got 4 or 5 enlisted right there in front of you confirming everything. So it's not like the enlisted guys have been left out.
All right, all right. Jake, why are you stroking flannel back there? I don't know what you were doing.
No, yeah. It kept flashing in my screen and it was bugging me.
Oh,
I thought maybe it still smelled like your
because you went
lumberjack
like
boyfriend.
Yeah.
oh, look at
No, I was pulling down my Portland. I have a Portland Timbers scarf that hangs over the door, and I
Oh,
normally
okay.
take it down.
Oh,
Um, but I didn't do it, and it was green and white, and it was kind of
who are the
messing with the
Timbers?
background. Other than the Trailblazers, the Portland
Oh,
Timbers are the MLS team, a
nice.
professional MLS team in Oregon.
When did this turn into a European podcast? Why the fuck are you talking about
We
soccer?
we only get
That's a kid's
a
game.
soccer team and a basketball team. That's all Oregon
Hey,
gets.
was there a PT event that caused more injuries than playing soccer on PT?
Yeah, Ultimate Frisbee was a good one too.
Yeah, I will say
Ultimate
Ultimate
Frisbee was
Frisbee
close.
was usually pretty bad.
But soccer was
Yeah.
the worst, I think.
Soccer, knees and stuff. Yeah.
All right, since we're all warmed up, Mike, hit us with what you got with your story.
All right. So on Sunday, the mainstream media decided to drop out an article titled U.S. Military Academies Focus on Oaths and Loyalty to the Constitution. For 75 minutes, Major Joe Amorazzo quizzes students in SS 202, American Politics, about civilian leadership of the military, the trust between the armed forces and the public, and how the military must not become a partisan tool.
And this was at West Point. that guy was, right?
Yes, it was at the U.S. Military
Instructor at West
Academy,
Point.
otherwise known as West Point.
We used to say, "You suck my ass." That was another dad joke, right? Because it was
Yeah.
USMA. I was like, "Oh, you suck my ass." See?
So there was one answer he said that would always be acceptable in his class filled with second-year students at the USMA. Hesitantly, one cadet offered a response: the Constitution. Yes, Amorosa said emphatically. His message to the students, known as yearlings, was simple. Their loyalty is not about particular candidates. It's not about a particular person or personality that occupies these positions. It's about the Constitution. So why drop that on a Sunday? And why is this news?
Right.
Well, we do swear an oath to protect and defend, right?
That's
But we
right.
also swear an oath to obey the orders of the officers appointed over us,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and the civilians.
So
It's never been a thing, at least as long as I've been in the military. It's
Well,
never,
we got numerous briefings on not like things like that on whatever the hot button is. Like, don't
Sure.
you know you're not supposed to trash talk the president?
right. Or
Like,
don't go
nobody
to a
trash talk
political
the president.
event, or
Yep.
you can't do any of that. shit.
Every election season, don't trash talk the president. Don't go to a political event in your uniform.
Mhm.
You know,
You can't represent the military at any civilian.
yeah, we always get those briefings, right?
Yeah.
But
And everybody kind of knew it. I remember going through it, and everybody was like, "Yeah, of course not. Yeah, what are we gonna
so
do?"
they're driving it home now or something, or
yeah,
what's going?
well, I mean, there again, that's the question: is why drop this on a Sunday, and then
Yeah.
why does this need to be said? You know, it was one of those things. You know, from the get go with me joining the military. You know, I knew about these things. I read
Yeah.
through the oath. I understood the Constitution and that the President of the United States is the Commander in Chief. Why must we have the mainstream media coming out and say it? Why would they drop it on a Sunday? If it's really, if we really want to foot stomp it, why not put that out on, Monday? And
Because the first Republican caucus was yesterday or the day before.
Oh, yeah.
Is that why they dropped it on Sunday, right before that?
so let's see,
To remind us.
cadets encounter an array of classes on the Constitution, and in some cases, the history of the civilian-military relationship. Each graduate is commissioned, takes multiple oaths at school and during their service. Milley emphasized the significance of the oaths in his retirement address last fall, appearing to take aim at Trump. So there again, if we're being nonpartisan, not bipartisan, but nonpartisan, why are we taking shots?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a subtle but a very good point. It's not being bipartisan; it's being nonpartisan, right?
Well, and what he said, I don't necessarily disagree with. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator, and we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
That's that second half is what I
okay.
take issue with.
Yeah, I mean,
what did you say? Wannabe dictator?
Yeah. What does that mean?
What does that mean? Right.
So yeah, there's just a lot of questions here, and
both sides are so guilty of this shit, right? Like, wannabe dictator. Okay, well, literally, the Democratic Party just canceled the primary in Florida. They canceled they're before the deadline to submit your name was done. They had already said nope, closed. And,
yeah, we're not going to do it that way. We don't.
And Joey B is our man.
But we're all for the democratic process, except when we don't like the democratic process.
I mean,
we just can't change it.
That's pretty dictatorial. Like that's right. Like, we just got on Zelensky about canceling fucking
that's right
primaries and elections.
He suspended it.
Well, no, he suspended the entire election. But they are also in a hot war where people are dying. How are you going to get a ballot to some dude on the front line?
Okay, yeah,
because 2/3 of that country is not.
Some of it is, some of it is justifiable, but it's still suspect.
Yeah, absolutely
right?
Suspect, right?
And we definitely can't be pointing these fingers and doing at either side when we're both both sides are guilty as shit.
Oh yeah, sure. But read that next
Oh.
paragraph, Mike.
All right, hold on a second. Okay, at the Air Force Academy, the January 6th, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol was a top subject of discussion in the civil military relations class when junior and senior cadets began the spring semester the next day. The coincidental timing brought introspection about their oaths as future officers, said the instructor, Mary Beth Ulbrich. One result was a cadet-driven initiative, the Oath Project.
But wait, let's stop right there. And we're talking about the federal military. And you're gonna coincide that with January 6th? January 6th was a civil thing on CONUS. Federal military has no play there, right? It wasn't ever like, hey, we're not at Kent State. Let's call in the federal military. It's like, oh no, let's call the National Guard, because federal military can't play because of what?
No, I wasn't on
What
for
rule?
that one.
What
Whatever
rule?
that
Why
Latin
the
rule
federal
is.
military can't play in the
Posse
U.S.?
Comitatus, sorry.
Posse Comitatus,
Eh.
which is like Bangkok. It's like so close to being dirty. It's awesome. That's another dad joke. Hey, it's Posse Comitatus.
No, it's horrible. Jeez.
So
So
it doesn't
but
perform.
once again, though, that was the reason that they were talking shit about Trump deploying army to the southern border.
He
because
wanted
they
the
don't
National
have
Guard, right?
Yes. So he
Which
wanted
is
the
different.
National Guard,
Yeah.
but they put active duty and I think National Guard, but on federal orders, so
right.
that
They
they
activated
could
them,
not
yeah.
arrest or do anything
No,
against
they
anyone.
had no authority. True.
They had no authority at all.
Right. But saying that, this article is saying that, oh, we gotta make sure these guys know
Yeah,
that you
the
can't swear
timing
to an
is
open.
some bullshit, though.
The president couldn't.
The
Even if you
curriculum
go to
timing
Trump,
was
he couldn't
bullshit.
say, "Hey, federal military, get in there." He doesn't have that
No.
authority,
Yeah.
right? He has no authority to do that. That's a ridiculous premise for whoever wrote this article. And it's
And
a
the
ridiculous premise.
curriculum timing is bullshit.
Yeah, and it's a
Really,
ridiculous premise to try to teach that to students, to go, look, don't you listen to the president if he orders you in to go shoot American citizens. Come on. What? He
It's
doesn't have the
crazy.
authority to do it. He can't do
And,
it, right?
Well, and
But-
in something like that, the military would balk. It would immediately,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
it would go
I would
immediately
hope
huge.
so.
Because
Right.
even going back to Second Amendment issues and thinking about this stuff for the last 20 years. If the United States government deployed the U.S. military against its own citizens to go and confiscate guns, it would be a complete shit bit.
Yeah,
But-
And
Marty just brought up Kent State, where military shot civilians
yeah.
and like
that was the
actively
National Guard.
shot.
There's a National Guard.
National Guard did. Yeah, National Guard did.
Yes, but you say you don't think the military would
True.
do
Yeah,
or
that's
follow
true.
these orders.
Oh, I don't.
Historically
I said
speaking,
it would
they've
cause a
proven
shit
they've
bit.
done it.
Well, that's
Oh,
true.
it would be a shit. Yeah, it would be a
That's
shit.
true.
And because Kent State happened, I think that you're
Yeah,
a little bit smarter than average military member. I would hope
I
that
would hope
most
so. Yeah,
officers would see the problem with something like that.
You would hope that we have enough history of things gone wrong in this country that most guys would be like, I don't think I would want to do that. I don't think that's lawful
yeah.
to do that,
Never
right?
know.
But at the time, you get threatened with a court martial. You're like, okay, I guess I better do it, right? But it's I don't know. I don't know, and maybe that's part of the reason why we can't recruit. In a roundabout big way. I think there's some faith lost in the employment of the military. Not that we were using the military against the civilian populace. True.
Yeah.
So why the emphasis on this article? Like you said, Vern, like why the emphasis on this article? The timing, the tone of it. Why do they have to teach lieutenants we obey the Constitution? That's yes, that's easy, right? That's out there, but why are they emphasizing it?
Well, and why is it a 202 course and not a 101 course? Like
Oh, yeah.
this should be the first thing you do. Like as soon as you get in and you know where your classes are, this should be the first class you go to.
Sure. It should almost be in a prep course.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, who's questioning? If I sign up for the military, are they gonna make me shoot American civilians? Like, no, dummy, no. You. In
So
fact,
let me
you're
continue
out.
on. Let me continue on. When students examine the 3Os they've sworn to, they said they realized there not been much education about them. A line by line breakdown. What does that mean? What are you really swearing your allegiance to essentially? The group suggested more emphasis on the history and purpose of their oaths, and also what are you actually swearing your allegiance to? One point was showing the distinction between countries where the military professed allegiance to sovereigns or individuals as opposed to the U.S. military's oath constitution.
Yeah.
So at least they're being proactive about it, and
I think it's cool that they're
asking
breaking it
good,
down.
solid questions.
But the timing and the person involved in the politics is shitty. You know, I mean, with what they're trying to say is that if Trump gets elected president, you don't have to listen to him if he tells you to go shoot Americans. And it's totally a ridiculous policy or a premise, but that's what they're gearing him towards. That's what
Well, and they wrap it all around January 6th, which there again, while there may have been active duty military involved in January 6th, I mean, there was thousands of people involved in January 6th.
Yeah.
And
good job, gentlemen. On behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And make sure next week that you are not late for
Changeover. Jesus. I thought we were doing it on the cadence.
There was like way too much time.
That was too slow, but that was close. That was
yeah.
good.
I was like,
Wheel
all right.
of fortune.
I know it was
Yeah,
supposed
but
to go,
you didn't do late for changeover. You did
well,
late.
because I was watching Mike's face and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was it. Yeah, I know.
I mean, I could lead it, but I thought you were leading it.
Well,
I continue to fuck it up, though.
I
Don't you
faltered.
worry. I'm still gonna fuck it up.
Ben, thanks for the week. I'll see you next week.
All right, you guys have fun. And Eric, hopefully you're not skipping leg day too much because those calves need some work.
And some paint.
Oh, they need some stain, some slather on them.
At Teapot, go get Miss America's autograph.
Teapot's busy waddling around there pretending he's freaking super injured as he
Space Mountain!
He skips to the front of the line.
He's doing a quick pass, pushing little kids out of his way. Come on,
I had a hip replacement. And Michigan, what? Go blue! Get out of the way, kid.
National champion. Out of the way.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.